this is a physical copy. I have a couple of physical. I think I have 2 left. If someone wanted the physical copy, you'll have to buy it. Some of the other ones that I can give you for free, but if you get a physical copy, you'd have to. It would be nice if you bought it. I mean, you don't have to. I could just give it to you for free, but I don't know. I think there was like maybe 20 or 25 people that ended up buying this book total, but I'm afraid that in fixing Archan, I might have to go all the way back and change a few scenes in this book. Especially one scene that I realized, oh, that is a horrible oops, once I figured something out about that one altar and what Tio did with her. I really didn't think that scene through enough, and now that I know more about that altar, I'm like, oh, crap. Because Tio is someone that knows, he's been around for 102 years, and he is an extremely curious person, extremely curious about people, and about how people's minds works and bodies works and all the rest of that stuff. And like, his favorite places to be are probably in mental institutes or elementary schools or like places with like stuff like that. So he actually knows way more about, like, he knows about people. He knows about the teeny tiny little features of people's faces that make them unique. He knows like structure of physical body, and he knows a lot more about how the mind works. So even a covert system of d.i.d, and like if it's a covert system, that means it's not someone you most likely will never know. If when the altars switch, you won't even know that they're switching, and then you won't see a difference between the altars, because a covert system, its whole point is to be hidden so that people don't notice, so they can stay safely out of your scope of noticing. And that's why it operates that way. And I'm guessing that Archan is supposed to be more of a covert system, but sometimes she acts like an overt system. So I have to fix that. But my point was that, like, because Tio is so good at noticing, he is about the only one that would notice. Even a covert, if they were switching, he would notice, most likely, because of how good he is. And it's almost inhuman, because of the whole reason that he's still alive and all the rest of that stuff. It's not exactly magic. There's a scientific, realistic reason behind it. Anyway, hintings on the front of the book. This video is getting way longer than I meant it to, but it's kind of impossible to compress it into any less than this. And I'm rambling a bit, but I really don't want to make this video again unless I absolutely hate it, because yeah, I don't know. I'm not in the mood to make it again. So, and sometimes when I make things over and over and over again, I lose all the quality of what I really meant to say, because now I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over again. But either way, it's called Tattoo. The series is someone else's opinion. That's why it says someone else's opinion 1, because this is book 1. Also, I wanted to say, if people read this book and they don't like Tio, then in a way I still win, because when I first originally wrote this book, there were specific things that I was trying to do with Tio. One of them being that you know how in shows and stuff you have a character where nothing can sway them from their opinion, supposedly, where like you just cannot, they just honestly don't care, and you just honestly can't hang over anything over their head, and it's just, if they supposedly nothing, once they make up their mind, you can't make them, but then someone comes along in the show and, oh, if you don't do this, then I'll kill this person, and they go, no, you can't do that, and they change their mind and all the rest of that stuff, and it's like, so they really aren't as cold-hearted and stuff as you claim they were. So with Tio, I was trying to make someone that legitimately you could bring someone right in front of him and say, I'll kill this person if you don't do this, and he'll be like, that's you doing it, not me, so go ahead. So he's a very curious person, and he actually does care a lot more than he pretends he does, but he's got a long and very complicated history, of most of which you don't see in this book, which is why the first few scenes in this book, the first, what's it called? Chapter 1, A Tattoo is Born, Ireland, 1898. All the way up to, where did it go? Chapter 2, This Hospital Kitchen is Doomed, April 4th, 2008. So all of this right here was not originally, no, some of it. Not much of it was originally in the book. This much of it was not originally in the book. There are several scenes in here that when I first wrote the book weren't in there. I added them later because I was starting to write more and I really did want you to understand more about why Tio is the way he is. So I swear, if you read this book and you hate Tio and decide not to read the second book because you hate Tio, please don't do that. Because there is a whole lot more to him than this book necessarily shows. Like, he's 125 years old. He's got a ton of history under his belt. He has been through several wars. He fought in several wars, died in several wars. Yeah. He's got a ton of history behind him, and he's not the only one. Kirill has got massively complex, deep history behind him that I also have to be careful with because there's real connections that he has, connections to real organizations that he has that I better be careful about how I talk about. And Nanahar, he's pretty simple, but at the same time, he's not necessarily. And Archan, like I say, oh, she's complex just purely because she has d.i.d. And Xiai has an incredible background to her. There's a little bit of a story that I wrote about her past that I gotta figure out some way to put into the stories. It's a little short story, and I can't figure out what book to put it at the end of, or the book to put it at the beginning of, or what, because it's like, oh, poor Shy. She was like, I think 4 years old when that was happening to her. And so she's got a complex thing, and then as the story was going, things evolved, and I started learning about a connection she has to one of the other characters that I didn't know she had, and now I'm kind of like tweaking it in there, and I don't know if I'll ever say it outright. I came very close to saying it outright, but I don't know if I ever will. It's just up to the reader. If they catch it, then they can run with it. If they don't, then they can't. But it's, yeah, like I say, it's not actually magic that's doing anything. This is a much more grounded in reality book, and that's the problem. It goes into a lot more of the mental health, trauma, that kind of thing, and because there's a character that has d.i.d. in here, and because there's specific abuse mentioned and detailed, that's why it took me a while before I wanted to actually do this. Video is 23 minutes long, and even if you take out all the beginning part, probably about 20 minutes of it already is talking about this book, and that's why. Because I love it. I love my characters. I absolutely love my characters, and I absolutely adore Tio. It is hard to explain where he comes from inside of me. I mean, I don't want to set myself up to be whatever, but there's a lot of things about Tio that are very personal for me, about who he is and why he is and all the rest of this stuff. It's very personal for me, he himself. And then the other characters, just because they've been with me so long, since 2008, man, since 2008. That's how long I've been, the end of 2008. So it's 20 minus 8. I can't do math even that simple in my head. 8, 9, 10. What is it, 12 years? I've got books that are older than that. Stolen Treasure, I think I mentioned before, is even older than that. And it keeps getting pushed to the side because it's even more massive. But yeah, this book has been, these characters have been with me for a long time. I care a lot about them. And especially, like I say, with Archan, because she's got d.i.d, and the more I learn about d.i.d, and the more I want to learn about it, the more I want to learn about how it works, and different systems, and who they are, and why they are, and how they are, and all kinds of things. I'm like very interested in mental health, and d.i.d is one of the biggest topics that just, I keep coming back to that topic, especially now that I'm actually able to see people with d.i.d and how real it really is. And I want to be an advocate. I don't have the personality that's strong enough to stand up to an attack from a mob of people that, but I still want to support them as much as they are. And here's the blurb at the very end of this video, being that currently, for the past several months, like this whole year, and maybe even from the end of last year, unfortunately, the whole d.i.d community online has been under massive attack from like a whole ton of nasty, nasty people, and it is absolutely heartbreaking to see what it is doing to them right now. How many of them have been so hurt, how many of them have had to leave the internet because they can't handle that anymore, and their own mental health is very important, and they need to take care of themselves, and the only way they're able to do that is to leave the internet, because that's how bad the attack has become. And it makes me very angry and upset, and I sincerely wish there was something I could do for them, I don't know, maybe even just writing Urchan properly. I don't know if even that would just be something good enough. So now that if anybody watches this, and if you are a d.i.d system, or if you know a d.i.d system, that is my honest opinion. And if you want to help me at all fix Archan and make her something that is a good representation and a good, because she is a functioning system. The thing is with her character, she is not diagnosed because her host knew absolutely nothing. She was kept very completely 100% in the dark about all of the trauma that she faced from the time that she was 2 years old on. She was kept extremely in the dark about it. So she herself, I'm guessing maybe she went to therapy like once, but the only therapist she managed to see, partially from money problems, partially because she didn't know that she had d.i.d. Her mom doesn't know and doesn't care that she has d.i.d. Her mom is unfortunately a big one of the reasons she has d.i.d, one of the biggest reasons. But she wasn't able to have help, but most of her ulcers have very good communication with each other, so she is very high functioning. The problem is, in this book, something extremely traumatic and unexpected happens to her. She rather falls apart. And then, like, from there, she's starting to learn things and starting to learn more about d.i.d itself and who she is and why she is and etc. So it's kind of like she's 19 years old at this point. The body is 19 years old. A couple of the ulcers are older. And a couple of them are younger. But, yeah, she was a perfectly functioning system. So, like, and that's one of the things I've heard that d.i.d people want to see more in the media, is a proper representation of someone that is already fully functioning and perfectly capable of living day-to-day life and all that stuff. And that was already in the book. And then she fell apart because of the trauma. So because she lost her host, I don't want to say too much because of spoilers. But anyway, I didn't necessarily intend for this video to be this long, and I rambled on a lot, but I hope you did watch it because I hope you were curious about what it is, and either this book or just mental health in general. And that's the problem with mental health books. Once you start delving into the mental health, the book becomes very complicated. I purposely don't even say where they currently live, because it's kind of a made-up city, because I'm not good at research, and I'm like, I don't feel like trying to actually specifically follow a map and all the rest of that stuff. That's too much work. And then what do? I put in characters that have extreme amount of work. I'm not very smart sometimes. But anyway, this is the book that I've published. If I get to the editing enough, I'm going to guess that I'll have to republish this book with new content, or fixed content, or whatever in it. So if that happens and you get one of the original copies, maybe someday when I'm famous, you'll be able to make $1 bazillion off of it if you decide to sell it. Anyway, so that is what I wanted to say. I think that's basically the most of what I really wanted to say about Tattoo before I had anybody go looking it up, because, yeah, you just need to have the forewarning of the fact that there's a lot of trauma in it. But anybody that wants to go and read it, I would sincerely love it if you did go and read it and told me what your opinion was. And if you have any way of helping me, pointing me to resources or pointing me to systems that are desiring to help, just anything with their own personal experience that would be able to help with Archan or anything like that, then I would very much appreciate it. So yeah, that is that book. And that is kind of sort of what I wrote and what I did with it. And I can go on and on and on and on and on and on, especially if I start talking about the second book and what happens in there. This book specifically, my computer just turned back on. This book specifically is about Tio finding out why he's continuing to live. The second book is delving more into the characters and the other characters and so forth. From there, other stuff happens. But the very first book is specifically about Tio discovering why he's continuing to live, what's happening, how it happened, why it happened, who did it to him, etc. So this video is now going to be a half an hour long. I rambled for quite a while. That's what I tend to do. So if you watched the whole thing, thank you very much. And I am looking for help, even if it's just about trauma, even if it's not about d.i.d, but if trauma responses and PTSD and that kind of thing, because even Tio himself has a lot of PTSD still after 125 years. Actually, he's got even more, because he's got issues from his original family. 102 years ago was the last time he saw them. And he's got all the trauma and PTSD from not being able to die when he should die, and from seeing other people get killed, and himself getting killed, and all kinds of things that he's been through. So anybody that wants to help me with that kind of stuff, whether it's for this book or whether it's just for life in general, because I am extremely interested in mental health. And so, yeah, that's the end of what I had to say, I guess. So, bye. Thank you very much for watching. Leave it in the comments below. Somewhere. Bye.